Welcome back. Oh, well, that was a bit louder than I expected. Okay. This is I've got the panel on Africa now, the African market, what you need to know about the opportunities. This is being chaired by Sarafina from Income Access, Paysafe's Income Access, as it's called these days. Anyway, over to you, Sarafina, and to introduce everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. Wow, we didn't expect such a full house. It's lovely to see you all. When they asked me to chair this panel, I was like, wow, this is something that is going to be really good. I sound a bit croaky, but that's because I've been speaking all week since ICE, and as most of you must have been, but I can't tell you how many people walked up to us to ask us about the African market. So I have to say, for me personally, being with such great company here is amazing, because I think we would love to give you all something to walk away with, and I'm pretty sure we won't disappoint you. The African market has just seen substantial growth in the last even 12 months. And I think the industry has really benefited from the infrastructural expansion, particularly with mobile. We have a joke in Kenya where we say, does everybody know what a Maasai is? You know the Maasai warriors that go and they kill with their hands? Well, we used to joke in Kenya and we say, a Maasai always has two things. He has his cattle, and he has his rungu, the stick to herd the cattle. Today, a Maasai has three things. He has a cattle, a rungu, and a mobile phone. So, you're just in the right time at the right place, and we look forward to giving you guys a good lesson. I'm going to introduce my panelists here. I've got Matt to my left. I've got Mark, and I've got Akin. Do you want to say something and introduce yourselves?
I'm Matthew Symonds. I founded the company Web Analysis Solutions Limited. We operate two quite large football data, football prediction statistics sites in windrawwin.com and predicts.com. We get 100 million visits a year, of which 70 million are African. And over the past 3 to 4 years, we've done quite well in Africa. So therefore, I've been invited here to share our experiences and hopefully help some people also do well in Africa too.
Hi, I'm Mark McGuinness. I'm a bit of a dinosaur in the industry, having started my career in the online gambling industry in the year 2000 with a sports brand called Bet Internet. I'm currently the Chief Marketing Officer for a company called Bet Olymp. They have businesses in South Africa, land-based, online and mobile, and I'm here to offer some insights into that marketplace.
My name is Akin Alabi. I'm the founder and CEO of Nairabet, which is Nigeria's pioneer sports betting company. We're 9 years old now. We've got 2 million customers. We've got about 1,500 registrations a day. And we've got both the online and the retail aspect as well, although I know the affiliates are more concerned about the online part. But for retail, we've got about 1,000 outlets made up of our own shops, company-owned shops, and agents, about 1,000 all over the country.
That leads us perfectly into what we really wanted to talk about is, I'll start with you, Akin. How do you see the recent growth in the iGaming industry, and particularly for Nigeria, because obviously you're an expert there?
Well, there are many reasons why it's growing. The basic fact is the interest of football, especially in Nigeria, especially the English Premier League and the other major leagues across Europe. Because people get to watch it, people get to see what they want to bet on, so that increases the awareness. Then Nigeria is a highly mobilized country. 90% of those on the internet are doing through mobile phones. And at the beginning, internet was a bit terrible, quite expensive, and quite slow. But now we're not yet where we want to be, but it's getting cheaper and it's getting faster day by day. So as this happens, then the internet penetration, then people got more interested in online because retail is still very big in Nigeria, no questions about that. But online is growing in leaps and bounds, and this is the right time to position yourself to be in the industry.
Fantastic. And Mark, I mean, how do you see that differ from, let's say, South Africa or Eastern Africa? Because I know you've got quite a lot of exposure.
I mean, in true sense, it doesn't actually differ much. It's, the growth in South Africa, in particular, the Western Cape, is predicated on cheaper internet access. The economy is booming. You can see there's a lot of incoming workers from Johannesburg into the Western Cape, albeit that might change because there's a water shortage in the Western Cape, so that might put the brakes on some things. But generally, it's the economy, cheaper internet, access is predominantly through mobile. Akin's absolutely right. We see the same trends. It's two phones usage, predominantly Android. The popularity in football, rugby is extremely popular in Cape Town. Likewise, cricket. So it's all those particular drivers that are driving the propensity and proclivity to gamble. We also have retail presence. And that's a big factor as well. But at the moment, we've actually seen our digital side of the business overtake retail for the first time in 6 years.
Fantastic. That's really amazing. Matt, would you like to add, in your experience, what you've seen in recent times?
Yeah, I can certainly back up what Akin said there. In Nigeria, on our sites, I went to one of our advertisers 3-4 years ago and said, why is 50% of my traffic still on desktop? And they said, it's on desktop because people don't have a good enough internet connection outside of their office to log online and gamble. Within 1 year, that went to 85%, so 85% mobile. The mobile proliferation in Africa has just gone crazy in just such a short time. In another country we work in, Kenya, our mobile usage went from 20% to 80% in 1 year because people are getting hold of cheaper smartphones now. You can buy a really good smartphone for less than £50. Data costs are going down, and I believe Nairabet even offer free data per day as well for their customers. And other companies are following along those lines. Gambling has always been popular in Africa, even before online betting. Land-based betting is really popular, so there's no reason why that shouldn't convert slowly to online. Payment methods are getting better as well. Particularly in East Africa, you've got M-Pesa in Kenya, which 95% of all transactions go through M-Pesa. M-Pesa is a mobile wallet which is linked to your phone number. So you sign up, and it's so easy to deposit, withdraw through that. I don't believe there are things on a par with that in Nigeria yet, but they are coming soon. So that's going to really help the market take off there. And also, I'd finally add that trust online is probably getting a lot better.
Yeah, agreed.
The way I look at Africa is that it's perhaps how we were in the UK, maybe in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, where it seemed a bit alien to log online, hand over your credit card details, deposit money. You were just not sure about things. But now it's just second nature to us. And that's, I think, where Africa was a year or two ago. And that trust is continually building. So that will obviously help conversion.
That's brilliant. Now we can just change the channel a little bit and maybe go into the marketing, because I'm sure that's what you guys want to really know about. So, Akin, I'll start with you again. From a marketing perspective, what would you say are the most commonly used marketing channels in terms of advertising, online, offline, and what role do you see affiliates playing specifically for Nairabet?
I think it varies. We can't say per se that this is the way to go. But we know that banner advertising is quite popular amongst sports betting companies in Nigeria. And when I say banner advertising, I've included the traditional placing banner ads on websites. I've included it with some PPC and PPV. because there's hardly anything. What Nigerians want to do is they just want to get entertained online, so they're on different kinds of sites. And to be honest with you, I can't say just a particular kind of site, because we've seen traffic very coming from sports prediction sites like that of Mathew. By the way, he sends us pretty decent traffic, right? I think at the beginning he was a bit skeptical. Maybe he wasn't sure we're going to pay his money, but there's a lot of things a lot of people say about Nigeria.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people go around the world telling people they're from Nigeria so that they can impress women, but I'm truly from Nigeria. So his payments have been regular, if I'm correct, right? So anyway, a lot of PPC, a lot of banner advertising, a lot of what I know works a lot is email marketing, right? Having a database and email list of people who are your followers or your website visitors, who you can regularly follow up on them and actually teach them, because a lot of people actually gamble in Nigeria and they actually don't understand what it is. A lot of people just ask their friends, what should I bet on? And they bet on it. So with constant education, it's not as pronounced as it is here in Europe. A lot of people are still, that's why we actually have a very decent margin of profits. I'm sure you can testify to that. Here we're hearing about 5%, 3%, but in Africa, Nigeria, you can hit 20%, even up to 30% sometimes, okay? Because a lot of people are not knowledgeable of it. So prediction sites works very well. That's why we have this feature on Nairabet where you can get a code of a game that you're predicting. So rather than just tell them, okay, go and bet on Man United to win, go and bet on Bayern Munich to win, what you do is that you go to the site and put these bets together and generate a betting code. So it's this betting code that you're going to share. So when they just load the code on the website, it populates their bet slip. So if you go online, you see a lot of Nigerians asking around, plus give me a code, give me a winning code. In fact, they ask me to give them a winning code that they're going to use to bet and win on Nairabet. So give us winning code. An affiliate approached me the other day. He said he gives sports news and he gets emails from people and say, give me code, give me code, give me code. I said, then give them the code, right? It's easy. It's a no-brainer for me. So prediction websites and giving them tips, giving them codes, and regularly lecturing, teaching them, educating them about what sports betting is all about. A lot of people don't know more than just 1x2, right? But people are getting wiser by the day. But if you can be that authority and they respect you, they respect your knowledge of sports betting, they're definitely going to go anywhere you tell them to go with your affiliate link.
That's amazing. And what would you say? I was going to ask you a little bit about maybe SMS marketing or mobile, but maybe that you guys can add to that.
Currently our marketing channels are predominantly, we're investing heavily in search engine optimization because we see that as low-hanging fruit. It isn't competitive as Europe. So from an organic point of view, we are trying to control certain keywords and event-related keywords. In terms of acquisition channels, we've invested heavily in brand building, so TV advertising. Why do we do that? Well, it's quite simple. The access channel for the consumer is mobile, so i.e. second screening. So we've seen a massive uplift as soon as we do any TV advertising around Supersport channels. But what we find is a huge trigger in terms of redeposits, increasing betting activity is actually SMS. So we see a far higher uplift in SMS versus email. In fact, email is probably our least converting channel, simply because what we've found in our experience is a lot of our players don't have email addresses, but they have a mobile phone. So as long as you're capturing that at the point of registration, it's very ubiquitous, it's always on. So we've invested heavily in SMS. So it's very good for pre-match, live betting, and cross-sell. So SMS is our strongest channel.
Brilliant. And is that same experience you've got? I
can probably add a couple more things. As an affiliate, you're looking at the European markets. Banners are dead now. They don't work very well. You need to do something more clever than that to attract customers. But in Africa, banners work very well. for some reason, I don't know why. You have to simplify the proposition to the user. We found with some advertisers, for example, that having a landing page with an extra step to try and get somebody to register, you see a fall off of 75% in conversion because you're just adding another step. So you need to be very simplified in your message, land people on a registration form or offer them a bet, like you say, Akin. But following up on another point there, local brand awareness is really key to success in Africa. So you have to choose brands who are recognized and trusted by Nigerian people or Kenyan people. You know, there are brands who have African brand ambassadors. So there's a real connection with feeling that when you're in Kenya, you are betting with a Kenyan company, or you're betting with a Nigerian company in Nigeria. That's really important. Whereas in Europe, I think we're quite happy to go to any generic big brand and share our details with them and start betting. The other thing we've seen work really well is instead of offering big sign-up bonuses, which are kind of unbelievable to a lot of people, offering prizes, gadgets, mobile phones, free prize draws is really attractive. So one of our operators started giving away prizes in a free prize draw. All you had to do was place a certain type of bet, and you went into the prize draw that weekend. And the prize came over on the banner, and it was a generator, a diesel generator. And we thought, well, that's not attractive at all. But in Africa, it is. It's a really premium prize. So you have to kind of understand how the local market works, what incentivizes people. Things like the margin there at 30%. Yeah, you can hit 30% margins in Africa purely because people are betting on massive accumulators. People bet on 30-fold accumulators because whereas in the UK we might bet for fun, we might bet on odds of 1 to 2 to make a bit of money to go out and buy your beer that night. Africans are betting on massive multiples to try make life-changing money. So therefore, the margins are bigger.
Thanks, Matt. Well, you kind of alluded to the next question, which was I was going to ask both yourself and Mark, because obviously you've worked in a lot of international markets. We've worked together for a while. And I was going to ask you, in your experience, now being quite strong heavily in Africa, how do you compare the player values for as an affiliate if I wanted to give it a hand and drive traffic?
I mean, if I can jump in there, I mean, I think it's unfair to compare player values because they're different markets, different economies, there's different purchasing power, everything else. I think it's unfair to have compare apples with apples. But certainly, yes, if you do compare it, the sort of average revenue per user, per player is much lower. But what is higher is they are very much loyal to the brand. You see a lot of repeat betting activity. So therefore, that contributes to a higher margin. If the affiliate's on a revenue share, he's going to get more revenue, more cash in his pocket, so to speak. So for me, it's about understanding the local economy, the purchasing power of the local currency, and then factoring that in. But what you will find, in my opinion, is that the long play game, and we're all in this for the long play, is that affiliates will certainly grow within that market and their revenues will grow because all those economies in Africa are developing economies. You just have to look at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Africa is the emerging continent. So I'm quite sure that revenues to affiliates will increase over time.
And to add to that?
I'll throw out some numbers. In Kenya, we can make around £20-30 commission per player, which is not on the European levels. But if you've got Kenyan traffic, you're not going to monetize it anywhere that doesn't have M-Pesa as a deposit method. So you may as well put the traffic the way of a Kenyan bookmaker. We generally see revenues of around £5 per month per player, per active player. The only downside of that is retention. A lot of operators is very poor at the moment, although it's been getting better. you might see the lifetime of a player at a poor operator of only a month. But then in other operators, we see very good retention. So if you're starting out as an affiliate, then know your numbers, know your benchmarks, and stay with the brands that are good at retaining players. I think CRM in Africa is non-existent in some companies and developing in others. I think that's perhaps the thing that African operators need to get better. But when CRM does get better, then obviously those lifetime values will go up.
Akin, Mark and Matt, one of the questions we typically get asked is, we talk about Nigeria, we talk about Kenya, we talk about South Africa. Can your programs, for example, can you accept traffic from other countries in Africa?
Well, basically for now, we accept only Nigerians. And there are many reasons why we're doing this. Number one, a lot of my friends in the industry and the other sports betting companies, they've gone around Africa and they didn't do well as much as they thought they will do. And it kind of affected their original business in Nigeria. They kind of lost focus, as in they spread themselves too thin. Secondly, I look at Nigeria. Nigeria is a country of officially 160 million people, unofficially 200 million. So you can add like 4 other African countries together and it's still not as big as Nigeria. So you say to yourself, I'm in this country and this country, I'm in that country. But yet, if you put them together, you're still not up to Nigeria. So why don't you conquer your market first before you start going all around? That's why we said, okay, let's do Nigeria solely. We're definitely going to move to other areas, but concentrating on Nigeria is like a continent on its own. So it's huge. It is very huge. I just want to quickly add to what Mathew said earlier on about retention. Yeah, we had a nice discussion about it yesterday, but I just want to share it with you guys. Retention can be poor, and it's basically because of one major reason. It's because of the sign-up bonus. You see, in Africa, the KYC can be very poor, right? All you need to open, fund, and withdraw from a sports betting account is just your email address and your number, okay? Unlike in somewhere like in the UK, where you got to put everything you've got. You got to put your mother's birth certificate in it. You got to put virtually everything into it. But in Nigeria, just open another account. So you have someone who can open 200 accounts. Just open 200 email addresses. We know there are bonus hunters everywhere, but it's very, very easy to do in Nigeria. So you see a lot of people, you have a database of 100,000 people, you have actually genuine 5,000 members. That's why we don't do it at Nairabet. We don't do sign-up bonus at all. We do other kind of bonuses. We've added other kind of features, loads and loads of things. So, and as he told me yesterday, that our retention is getting better and better. So, I don't advise, even if you're not coming to Nairabet, if you're going to other sports betting companies, don't be too swayed by companies that their USP is just the sign-up bonus. It's not going to work. You're just going to have rubbish players.
Mark?
I actually agree with Akin. Our strategy is just to focus in on the South African market, in particular the Western Cape. It's got a population of 4.4 million and growing. So all the social dynamics say, keep focused on that market, ensure you've got market share. There's a lot of operators coming into the marketplace, so we need to obviously consolidate and protect our position. Once we've grown to a reasonable size in that market, we'll look at other markets. But I agree with Akin, focus in on what you know, concentrate on that, make sure you give a good service, the brand will grow, profits will grow.
Fantastic. Matt, you can add to that, but I also want to ask you, because we're running out of time, what would you say are the greatest opportunities for affiliates to promote African brands?
Well, we've been in Africa for 3-4 years now, and this year it just seems like it's just booming. There's so many companies coming online, teaming up with income access, getting proper affiliate programs. There's a lot of money to be made in Africa, and there's a lot of volume. There's a massive volume of people, players, it's untapped. And although on the negative side, player value may be relatively lower than Europe, retention may be relatively lower, it can get better, but the volume will make up for that. So,
and the currency is a factor. Naira to euro is about 400 euros to naira, so that's why it's quite, go on.
Yeah, so, if you're, like we were 3 years ago, sending your traffic all the way to some generic European-facing bookmaker, it's just not converting. So if you can add to your revenues now by going to Africa, it may not be your biggest market. I mean, it makes up around 40% of all our revenues as a company now, so it's pretty significant. But if you have any African traffic, I'm sure it would convert for you, because we're not, as a company, doing anything clever yet. We're just banner advertising. We're not even doing SMS yet, and it's working. So I'd be happy to help anyone you want to come up at the end and exchange business cards to try help you convert that traffic.
I agree with Matt. I think it's a great opportunity, affiliates. I mean, if you look at the UK, it's a mature market. You've got regulatory overheads. We all know what's happening here in terms of affiliate programs being shut down. Africa is, certainly an emerging economy, has less regulatory overhead. From an affiliate point of view, it's low cost to entry. You can quite easily smash the market in terms of organic rankings. So it's a great opportunity. It's a long-term game. And I say, there's better growth opportunities in Africa than Europe and the UK. And we don't have the impact of GDPR, which is a pain in everybody's backside.
Akin, would you like to add to that? How do you see affiliates? What role do you see them play for Nairabet?
Well, in the last 18 months or so, we've put more efforts after we saw what Matt has put into what he has contributed to our turnover and a few other affiliates that are doing quite well with us. So we said, okay, let's put more efforts into this. And since we moved our platform to Optima and started using you guys income access, so we said, let's take this more seriously. So we went to Amsterdam during the last affiliate conference. We walked around, myself and my wife. We walked around and we said, okay, let's get a stand in Berlin. So we got a stand in Berlin and here as well, even though it's a very small stand. But we said, we're here because we believe in the future of affiliate market in Africa. It just doesn't make sense, as Matt has repeatedly said, that you've got traffic coming from Nigeria, you've got traffic coming from Kenya on your website or on your blog or whatever. You now send it to European bookmakers. Listen, some will sign up there, but the requirement, I said earlier on in Nigeria, will just use our email address and that's it. By the time they start asking for better, so I start doing their verification, a lot of Nigerians just drop out. So you're just wasting the traffic by sending it there. You don't need to do any extra work, right? You have the traffic already. Just geo-target your advertising to target these African betting companies. So a lot of African companies, Nigerian sports betting companies that came to visit me here, they came for eyes, then later came to visit me here. They said, we've got to be here next year as well. We've got to be here next year as well. We've got to meet these affiliates, right? So it can only grow. I know there are thousands of affiliates jostling for these other bigger brands, European brands. But in Africa, just a few people. Now, my plan is to have a few quality ones. I don't want everybody, obviously, quality people like Matt, right? Because I don't want too much competition for him so that he doesn't get disillusioned. So a few quality ones. Let's work together. The figure, the value, each player might be a bit low, as I said when I jumped in earlier on, because of the value of the currency. Naira to pound is 500 naira now, right? It's quite poor. Euros, dollars, $350, about 400. So it's low, but the volume, you make up for that low value with lots and lots of sign-ups. So at the end of the day, you can add to your revenue by just changing a few things on your website, sending your traffic coming from Africa to an African sports betting company and not Europe.
And I would just add to that, and maybe Akin telling you that Nigerians are trustworthy is perhaps not as believable as it coming from me. But as an affiliate, I can vouch for various companies, and it's when you look at Africa, you might think, I'm not sure who this company is, whether they're going to pay or whether they're going to convert. African companies now are serious about affiliation, and they're going to be around for a while. So they're not fly-by-night companies. They're not going to not pay you or skim your players. They're as reputable as any of the operators here.
As long as you go for the major brands, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I think we should put out to the floor in case the floor has some questions. You've all heard about the size of the market, the size of the opportunity, the growth trends that everybody's discussed at great detail. Do you have any questions for our expert panelists?
Hi guys, I just had two questions actually. First, you said that a brand needs to be very, very localized to work in Africa. Is there any European or big sports books that sort of localize their offer that works properly? That was the first question. The second one is, it's all about sportsbook usually. What about casino games and so on?
Well, can I start? I don't know of any major European company that has localized its offers, except we're having one or two who are now having a Nigerian version of their site. So we have a company like Betway, who is now in Nigeria as betway.com.ng, right? So I don't know about the affiliate program. I don't know anything. But when you're talking about localized, Nigerians actually love to see something physical. They love to feel that they are coming somewhere to get you, right? So we have retail outlets where if you sign on players, they can go fund their online accounts in these shops all over the country. And if they're not receiving their payout early enough, they'll go to the agent, where's my money, where's my money? And they can shut down the agent and say, you're not opening your shop until Nairabet pays me. And the agent calls us. Maybe there was a technical error, a financial error from the banks, so we sort it quickly. So they like the fact that they can come and get you. They don't want something like one international company who just said, okay, because we can't verify your address or we can't verify your international passport, so that's the end of your money. So none is actually localizing it like that. So I think you really, really need a local company to really maximize this. Then as for casino, from our end, casino serves about 20% of our total turnover, yeah? So I think it's increasing by the day, because when I look at our statistics, I see that it's increasing and increasing and increasing. So the major problem, I think, is a bit of data. And apart from data, people don't really know it. Unlike sports, even if you don't know sports betting, at least you know there's Chelsea, you know there's Barcelona, right? So you can say, okay, just to bet on Barcelona to win, then I can win money, right? But casino, you got to teach them. So you lure them in through sports betting. So when they get there, they play on the virtual games. Virtual games is crazy in Nigeria, absolutely crazy. So bring them into virtual games, and you bring them into casino as well.
In terms of South Africa, casino gaming's not permitted under the regulation, so sports betting's the main vertical. But as Akin said, what is extremely popular is betting on numbers. So 5s, 6s, 7s, lottery. So numbers-orientated betting, I would say, is probably going to eclipse sports betting because it's fast, instantaneous. The player doesn't have to think. Virtual sports, So that's the big market driver, certainly in Cape Town. In terms of your comment about international brands, I mean, quite frankly, nobody knows William Hill in South Africa or Paddy Power. A popular brand that has transcended that is Sporting Bet. They've been active in the market for a considerable amount of time, so they've built up good market share, good reputation. But the rest is local operators. They are the main competitors in the market, leaders.
Yeah, I think localization works very well. Having shops on the street, that adds to the trust. And then some operators connect the website to the shop. So like you say, you can go withdraw your winnings from the shop or get a code from the shop that allows you to place a bet online. Other European brands, we haven't seen any that have done very well. We do know there are some brands out there today on the conference floor that are targeting Africa, but they're perhaps doing it without a license. So that if you go with those guys, you build up players, you might get shut down after a year or two. What was the other question? Oh, other products. We've seen virtual products do very well in Kenya. At one point, it was making 50% of all the revenue with people playing a virtual football league game. So they're literally watching a football season tick over on the screen and placing bets. Because in Africa, I'd say 90% of the betting is on football. They don't really understand or want to bet on other sports like horse racing and those kind of things. So when the football ends at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday, they want something else to bet on. So virtuals is a good alternative. We're also seeing perhaps some betting on American sports because of the time difference. So people want to bet 24 hours around the clock.
Sorry, I'd just like to add, I think one thing you will see in terms of European operators, the way to access the market is through merger and acquisition. To build a brand, say William Hill, for example, which is a good brand, will take a lot of time and resource. So I think the European operators' entry to market is through mergers and acquisitions with local operators. So I think over the next couple of years, you're going to see massive M&A activity within the whole African continent.
With regards to marketing, what would you say is one specific key message for high net worth individuals that really works in the market?
What we find is that we do have a small database of VIP players, so we deal with them entirely differently. But the message, like any message with any iGaming business, is about trust, credibility, making sure the onboarding of the registration process is good, deposits, withdrawals. If they're VIPs on the sportsbook side, make sure you give them the best odds, they can actually get their money in. So really there's no sort of secret sauce, it's just common sense prevails. But it's really about trust and credibility.
My experience with the sports betting in Nigeria is that the business is not with the high net worth, right? It's with the majority of the little guys, because Matt mentioned something earlier that people like to pile on the 40-game accumulator, right? They're looking for a lottery win, sports betting in Nigeria. So it's the little guys putting little money together, millions and millions of people. That's where our money comes from. I'm not doubting that there are a few high rollers out there, but the high rollers in Nigeria, those that are financially capable and those that are highly educated in Nigeria, actually don't like sports betting, right? Maybe they'll go to the classy hotel where they've got a land-based casino, but they don't actually. When we go to sponsor, we go to display at some high-class events, we don't get anybody to come to us. But when we go to the local concert, the local area concert, where a lot of little boys between 18 and 25 and 28 are there, guys who are still in school or who just finished the secondary school about to get into higher institution, we get a lot of sign-ups because they are waiting for that day. So they put a €1.50. They put it on it. So the concentration is on the mass populace and not the high rollers.
Yeah, we can certainly back up those numbers. It's all about volume. You know, our average bet size in Kenya for us is £1.20 or something per bet. In Nigeria, probably similar, if not lower. But that said, anywhere you are in the world, I think almost any company relies on its high rollers, and a very small percentage of people do make up a larger proportion of the revenues. But as an affiliate, I don't really have an insight into the marketing that goes on behind the scenes in an operator in terms of VIPs.
I mean, I think in South Africa, if we had casino, then it's an entirely different dynamic, you know, to accommodate VIPs. But because casino gaming isn't allowable online, we only accommodate VIPs on the sportsbook, and it's a very limited audience, as Akin said. It's more mass market.
Yeah, hi there. Any specific plans for the World Cup?
What, in terms of predictions, who will win?
Marketing programs.
I mean, again, the World Cup will be a great opportunity for any online gambling company. We are specifically focusing on content to attract new players and retain players. So similar to Akin, I'm a great believer coming from the UK, less focus on sign-up bonuses. It just engenders disloyalty. What you certainly know about African players is they only have 1 or 2 accounts compared to European players or UK players, and you know they've got 10, 12, up to 20 different accounts with operators. So our focus in the World Cup is simply around content, predictions, analysis, head-to-head, so actually empowering the player with knowledge to make confident betting decisions and less reliance on sign-up offers.
Well, on a general note, Mark is right about all gaming companies who should take advantage of the World Cup because there's going to be a lot of hype around it. You can build a lot of campaigns and promotions around it. But personally, from my experience, since we've been operating, we've had 2 World Cups, right? 2010 and 2014. I think the World Cup is overrated when it comes to sports betting in Nigeria. The major tourneys like the Euros and the World Cup are overrated. It doesn't actually impact our revenue. I think it's actually quite low at that time. And I think the reason is because our customers just want to bet on major games. And we're talking about the World Cup, which in an entire month has only 64 games, right? Maybe 2 at the beginning, 2 games a day. Then later 1 game. Some days, no game at all, right? But on a typical Saturday, you got 10 Premier League games. You got Spanish League, Bundesliga, and Dutch, and so on and so forth. Even a championship. So loads of games to bet on. And as Matt said earlier on, we love the long game accumulator, right? Long one, 40 games. So World Cup, how can you accumulate 40 games? How can you accumulate World Cup final? You'll see people accumulating the World Cup final with the Israeli League, Division 2, right? Because they want more games. And I think that's why we're signing up with Bet Genius actually to provide a service called Bet Builder, where you can accumulate multiple options within a game and give us a long accumulator. So a World Cup final is nowhere near as important as a typical Saturday for the Nigerian punter.
Yeah, I can echo that. You know, Nigerians will bet on probably the Greece Second League more than they would, a World Cup, 2 rubbish teams playing each other on the
North
first
Korea,
round.
Ivory Coast.
Yeah, but the World Cup's important. But I can echo that. The traffic isn't as good as a Champions League Wednesday, for example, because people like the big teams. But on the positive side, we'd be looking at doing things like bet bundles, as they call them in Nigeria, putting together a suggested set of bets or multiple that people can bet on, maybe use some of the more obscure markets, and also running some competitions. We have a side site called sportkenya.co.ke. It's virtual betting. So we'll be running plenty of competitions on there to try to acquire people, giving away prizes, that kind of incentive in order to then refer them on to the bookmakers. But the World Cup's great for us because I'm always worried about retention, and having a blank summer of football worries me in Africa. So the World Cup's going to help us retain those players and keep them playing into the new season.
Yeah, because the off season anyway, so it's an advantage, but it's definitely not as big as a typical Saturday or a Champions League midweek, as you said. Yeah.
Right then. Unfortunately, we have to bring things to a close. I think we could probably go on much longer, but we have another panel starting shortly. Anyway, I'd like to thank all the panelists. That was fantastic. Thank you.